Um, all right. So today we're looking at an account in the, I guess you call it the tutoring, online tutoring space. And then these campaigns are specific to language programs that are helpful for those who are applying for permanent residency, something like that. Anyways, in the immigration process. And so we actually ran our campaign like this last year in 2025. And that iteration of the campaign, this is search that we're running. And it ran for a couple of months and they had some success with the campaign. In that campaign, they spent just $1,500 basically in the lifetime of it. So it really didn't run very long, but they had like 36 forms. And then we had this step 2, which was like booking a call. At least that's from what I recall anyways. And they had 26 calls booked. So like the cost per call booked was really good. I mean, relative to the lifetime value. And that's the other big important piece, is that when somebody signs up for one of these programs, the lifetime value of the client is like well over $1,000. I can't remember exactly what it was. Lan, I don't know if you remember.
That was the range, $1,000.
Yeah, something like that. So in 2025, the process was to click through a landing page, or to click through an ad, get to a landing page, fill out a form, and then book a call, like through a Calendly integration. And it worked well. The problem was that they had to take the calls. Like they actually had to, they couldn't get somebody to sign up, for example, without having the call with somebody from the company. Okay. And so they wanted to change that this year. They wanted to make it more of a streamlined process. And I guess, and part of the problem too is that, a lot of folks, when they learned how expensive it was, they weren't interested anymore. And so they felt like it was, despite it still working and them being able to, and despite them being able to sign up students and running an ROI positive campaign in 2025, they felt like it was too many unqualified leads because they didn't know about pricing. So 2026, we run the same campaign, different landing page. But this landing page had, it led to a series of, I don't know what you call it. What do you call like it's not a form, but like you click through one and then you go to the next question. Sorry?
A questionnaire.
Yeah, a question. Yeah, like kind of like a questionnaire. And then at the end, I can't even actually remember if they didn't book a call. Did they pay?
It would ask, yeah, it would take, so after you select each one, by the time you got to the end, it would ask, basically it's like, this is the program for you.
And the pricing.
Yeah.
And then sign up basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we noticed.
So that was running for a while, but everybody was dropping off when they got to the sign up. Right. So they go through the questionnaire and then it would say, here's the program for you, and this is the cost of the program. And then they would drop off. And so, we knew from 2025 that it worked. Tried to make an improvement on the landing page to streamline it, to try to take the salesperson out of it. And really what I think we've learned here is that for certain things, you can take the salesperson out of it. You don't not need the call. People can just sign up on their own, for a certain type of subscription or program. But for a program that's going to cost, I think these programs start at.
It's not cheap. It's like $100 at.
So it's supposed to have a pin headline. Let me just double check. These programs start at $350 to $500 a month.
Yeah.
It's unlikely that somebody, and then that's the starting. I think. Anyways, what it says, yeah, must be.
So when you paused it last year, was there a goal in mind to get it running again?
Yeah, they were pretty vague about it actually in terms of why. Like it was paused. They wanted to run some other campaigns. And so we moved into running those other campaigns. But they did let us know that they were going to want to run it again in the near future, I think. So now we have this program, and we kind of went back and forth because they were going to pull the plug on this campaign. And I said to them, I'm like, listen, like everybody's dropping off of this form. Like we can see people, they're clicking through the ad. It's the same type of keywords as it was in 2005. There's no increase on the cost per click. The search term quality is better now than it was before because we've run this for a little while. And so we said we should introduce pricing into the landing pages and bring back the sales call. Right. Okay. So when people get to the landing page, they're going to go and book a call. And so what we did is we created a campaign with an experiment sub campaign. So half the people went to a landing page experience, which had the pricing, and half the people went to a landing page that didn't have pricing, but then both funneled to the booking calendar. And we wanted to see how many calls would be booked from when they didn't know about pricing and then went to go book a call versus the ones that did. And in the pricing campaign, in the headlines, we made sure that pricing was there so that they weren't, if they were looking for something free or whatever, hopefully they'd see that headline and not click through the ad. Does that make sense, Adam? Is that following?
Yeah. Did you experiment with any audience layering or no, or audience targeting? In terms of income ranges, age ranges.
Yeah, income ranges for sure. That was we could see just low as 50 was removed. And age range, it didn't matter. The majority of the search was unknown, but in our market anyways. And I don't really think it's too demographic specific. I mean, you could remove 65 plus, but won't matter. It's one click. Yeah. So just the demographic on the household income side of things. And I mean, right now, for example, since the changes, which was March 13th,
yep,
we actually have quite a bit of search impression share, like over 50%. And these are national campaigns. So can't really get too tight on it.
What's the keyword strategy? What match are you using?
We have a high intent and low mid intent.
Well, the high intent keywords are exact match. No, they're all exact match. So it's all exact match to answer your question, Adam. Yeah. So we have two different ad groups. One that's sort of specific to like a prep, like course, tutoring, that kind of thing. And then the other ones are like learn French for whatever reason, or how to improve, or that type of stuff. Kind of learned, to be honest, that these different ad groups don't really matter. There'd be ways to expand on the keyword side of things for sure, especially when we have enough data, which we do now, right? So in the last since March 13th, now we have total of 34 calls booked and 70 forms, and this is actually it's mislabeled, but 70 folks getting to the point of booking a call. So they've kind of expressed that interest. That's kind of our micro conversion.
Okay. And just to go back one step, and you mentioned the search impression share being at 50%. Talk a little bit more about that and why that's affected by your keywords, because you mentioned as well it's nationwide, 50% of the search impression share nationwide. So explain that a little bit more.
Well, I mean, search impression share. So what that means, right, is that 50% of the time our ads are showing up. As we capture too much search impression share, generally what happens is you see your campaigns start to overbid for traffic to try to spend the budget. It's not like we have a huge budget, $75 a day. I mean, it's not tiny, but it's not a couple $1,000 a month, a little bit more than a couple $1,000 a month. So with an exact match keyword strategy, we're really specific in terms of the type of keywords that we want to show up for. Now, if we changed our keyword match type to phrase match, probably have less than 10% of the search impression share, I'd guess.
Mm-hmm. And did you land at that, like, say in 2025, were you exact match mid and high intent, or
no, it was phrase and it was just too crazy.
Too much junk.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah. And now, I mean, I kind of like this, right? So if we start a phrase, there's too much junk. It was kind of a new client that was a little bit touchy, you know, like being like, you know, nervous about it. So then you kind of shore up on the keyword side of things as quickly as possible. And there's no shortage of real volume here. Like they're spending 2,200. We got 50% of search impression share with exact match. I could do it because there was enough volume.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now that we have over 30 conversions a month of those calls booked, so I'm going to classify those as like high quality conversions, even though they're not all high quality conversions. We could go to phrase match. If the budget increases here, I would recommend going to phrase match, and introducing target CPA.
Okay, so how did you land on target CPA as your bidding strategy? How did you land on maximize conversions? Did you try anything else, or did?
No, I think it's always been. I can't actually remember from 2005, but I think it's maybe always been on max conversions. Because there was always lots of conversion data. And so I think we started out max conversion in 2005 and it worked fine. So I never experimented with max clicks. And now that we have enough conversion data, I wouldn't switch back to max clicks. And now the play is right, and part of scaling, and Landon, I didn't actually think about this on our call, is switching to phrase match if the budget goes up. Does that make sense to you, Lynn?
Yeah, because we'd have more budget to play with, so we could target those other. And if we're managing it, a phrase match is definitely something that we wouldn't let get out of control. So we could bring in those extra terms.
Yeah, we'll just need more volume for sure. And with the target CPA, because if we introduce a target CPA right now, our cost per call booked is, because we would drop the micro conversion.
Yeah, we're doing that already.
Set the target CPA at whatever the current cost per call booked is, plus $10 or something like that. Then increase our budget, and that'll be the recipe for success, I suspect. I know it will. That'll be the process for sure. I mean, you could technically actually like switch to phrase match now, as an experiment too. So like, we're going through an experiment right now, so we don't want to run another experiment here.
Oh, we just ended it yesterday.
We ended the experiment, or we extended the experiment?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, never mind. We extended. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
What did we do yesterday? Extended the experiment yesterday. The experiment that we have running now is where we have one campaign that goes to the landing page with prices, one without. What we're seeing in the last month is that the campaign where we don't show prices has 26 calls booked on the same spend as campaign where we do show prices, and we have 8 calls booked. Now you might go, oh well, we see the winner. All right, we know what the winner is. It's going to be this one. It's got better cost per call booked, but we need to be able to know if the quality of the call is the same.
And is there something in place to track that?
So that's something that has come up and will be tracked moving forward. So we're going to create a second, we're going to duplicate the booking system so that they know which calls are coming from which campaign. Something we didn't think about when we initially set up the experiment was qualifying the conversion beyond just the number. So I told them that too. I was like, I just didn't think about how that would, in terms of like how the numbers would shake out, and then what else we might want to think about. Just because like if you don't really know what you're doing here, you just go, okay, look, that one's so much better. But you gotta, it's not just about, and this is the problem with like people that run Google ads that just rely on the data. You got to use logic too to really figure out how one campaign is performing versus another, or just how it's performing in general. Especially when you're working on like client side, because you don't know what's going on a day-to-day basis with the clients. So you don't know if like the calls are good or bad. So you have to think critically about it for sure. So when this experiment ends, so that's why we extended the experiment, because we're going to get more of this data, and then we're going to be able to, once we sort of have like 30 calls from each campaign, I think we'll have a much better idea, which one, the quality of the call. And it might be one of these things where it's like, okay, well, it's worth paying double for the call price per call booked through the campaign that includes pricing, then if it gets like to less than double, or sorry, more than double, then maybe it's not worth it, and we run the one without pricing. It's going to be close, I think. I think it's going to be pretty comparable either way. So I don't know which one's going to be the winner. But I think the reason I wanted to do, sorry, go ahead.
How much time the client has on their hands if they don't want to be taking 40 calls to get 20 signups, they'd prefer to have 25 calls to get 20 signups.
Yeah. That's true. No, that's a really good point too, right?
Because they removed that option, right? They wanted to get rid of the salesman completely. We say bring it back in, but now they're getting too many calls and half them are converting.
And as they scale, there's going to be other operational. But basically, when we talked back in early March, they were like, we wish we had these calls that we had in 2005 or 2025, right? They're like, we wish we had these calls. We wish we were, having to, even with the bad ones, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were just desperate for the volume.
Yeah.
So, bringing them back, or sorry, just getting that going was key. But you're right, like, as they scale this and more calls come through, I mean, and you're talking like, 15 calls a week, 20 calls a week, 30 calls a week, they're going to have to change and get somebody to start taking these calls, right? If that's what's required, it might not always be the owner, or the client, the manager that we're working with, who I think is the owner. So yeah, they'll have to figure out how to do that.
Less can be more.
Less can be more. That will be the title of I don't know if it'll be the title of the post here, but it'll be at least the title of the section. For sure.
Yes. I think one thing to like always be wary of, like in this account, we have these micro conversions, like you said, and it makes the cost per conversion look really, really good. It's important to know what your conversions are in an account, because you could be being misled.
Yeah, for sure. And in this case, our clients know that those are just to get some initial conversion data into the account. But really it's that call booked. That's going to be the most important.
Well, this also led you to investigate an experiment. So it was helpful in that case.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's not just for data. It's sometimes too to be able to see like a drop off. Right. So it's like, well, everyone's doing this first step, but they're not doing the second step. So what's the problem with the second step? If we didn't have that data, we might not have gotten here.
Yeah. Because we do get questions sometimes like, why are we tracking these actions that are not leads? And there's always a reason.
Yeah.
For us, other agencies, maybe I think we've seen from accounts we've taken over that some conversion actions are in place for no real reason. Maybe they just make the stats look a little bit better.
Yeah, you never know. But I'll always, you never know.
Allegedly.
Yeah. But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's good to have for other insights too. I mean, we have that other client there where they changed the call to actions. And so by tracking the CTAs prior to the change, we're able to kind of see how effective they are before and after, and then how it actually results in, and then changing the actual offer was changed too, kind of or at least how it was communicated. Talking about the Richmond personal trading client. So yeah. Anyways, so now it's going really well. I think they've booked on
11.
2,000, so on $1,000 spend, because the state range isn't correct. It was like 13th to 28th, I think was the calls. I think they have 6 students booked. So they're looking at about 6 to 1 return on ad spend, and that's early, right? Like we're early on in terms of figuring this out still.
Yep.
So they have problems with their payment methods and things like that can't be charged, and so it starts and stops the campaign. But I think the whole starting and stopping campaigns is a whole myth to some degree. I mean, I guess year 2 there's not that much data, but I just don't see a huge drop off or anything like that when it happens, and it happens all the time. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And so that's this account. But yeah, it's just sort of one of those things where it's like, you kind of dig into it, an account that isn't really working, and you say, and you make the changes, and it's not an incremental. It doesn't. Sometimes you can make changes on your landing page process, or I guess like the process to collect leads, let's just say, and it's not going to just make an incremental change. It's going to make takes a campaign from getting no calls booked to getting 30 calls booked. So it sort of just kind of amazed me in terms of how important the landing page and lead gen process is, and just making sure that things are clear, and that you're giving folks the option to buy your product, become a lead, whatever it is, the most appropriate option, because they weren't initially providing the most appropriate option.
Well, and I think in this kind of niche, like you're tutoring, you're wanting to have that one-on-one interaction. So like for us, even making that big switch over to just having a person pick up the phone, you can see like in the data that it's working, and like people want to meet someone before spending a significant margin on tutoring, especially in this kind of niche. But yeah, that one-on-one interaction definitely helps.
Yeah, I mean, it's even like in service-based businesses, if you're going to go get someone to come power wash your home, sometimes you don't want to book, some folks just don't want, and then you're like, we're going to slam everybody through, where you just book online. And some folks are happy to do that, and you can provide that option. But some folks, want to ask a question or want to confirm, how it's going to work and when people are going to show up and whatever. And so like, you just got to be careful in terms of trying to, get people to follow a process that they might not be ready for. I think that's the kind of the key message here. So I think that wraps it up, because this transcript's going to be super long. This is the problem when it's my account, because I babble or I keep going on and on. So I think we can end it there. But a good account, and sort of an interesting one.